you all know, I wore a tie, so you know that I'm specifically from Washington, and you can find me as I mixed amongst you. Again, as my slide said, Ian Watson, I'm the Assistant Director at OSTP for Biotechnology and Biosecurity, Office of Science and Technology Policy, which is within the Executive Office of the President and stuff. I want to thank John and also SynBioBeta for allowing me to meet with you guys and actually have some time talking to you today. This is critical for us, and I'll kind of explain why as I talk through our priorities on the bioeconomy from an administration perspective. It's probably better not to put me up, but all I'll say is that I only have one slide anyway, and that's principally because you guys trying to manipulate life is far easier than getting slides out of the White House for approval. So that's going to be just about me talking, I think, for the most part. With that, I'd just give you a little backdrop from where I'm from. For the Office of Science Technology Policy is a very small policy shop. Our responsibility is to advise the President and the executive branch on S&T related issues. Also crafting national strategies and the policies for priorities that have been identified by the administration and the interagency, coordinating with the interagency on priorities across the entire span, and also making sure we liaison with both our industry and academic partners, which is why I'm here with you today as we start working through the strategic priority. Amongst that, we use the National Science and Technology Council really as our formative place in which to discuss policy issues, and that bridges a whole bunch of different things you might expect across all elements of our S&T enterprise, from whether that's space weather to synthetic biology, to reducing burdens and administrative burdens to researchers, to creating and fostering inclusive work environments for our researchers, to scientific collections. That constitutes a lot of science and a lot of interaction with our interagency. I think, as you've also seen probably since the February timeframe on our technical side, particularly under the Chief Technology Officer, Michael Kratsios, who wanted to be here with us today, but I am the second to fill in. We have also launched back in February a recognition of the criticality around certain technologies and certain science elements and stuff to not only the U.S. economy, but to our national security and other elements. And those are called the industries of the future. And I think most of you and they kind of toil around with biology in a way, meaning that we focus specifically on artificial intelligence, quantum, advanced manufacturing, and broadband 5G have been the four over the course of this last two quarters that the administration has prioritized and stuff. What is obvious to most, particularly folks in this room and folks that I work with in my particular job, is the absence of any real life science in that administration priority. That is not purposeful. That I think is because a recognition of how difficult, how broad, and the applications associated with this particular field are. And so with that, I think it's critical to know that as we step out, and what I'll talk about kind of our summit that we'll be launching off next week, next Monday and everything, is that the critical thing from our government is that biology matters, right? And all of you know that, as John said from the beginning, but it really needs to be said time and time again, right? I mean, it matters and it constitutes a critical element of not only our national prosperity, but our national and health security as we look at it from an administration. I don't need to talk to this group particularly about the potential applications and the unlimited applications. I think Kevin did a great job of that, and frankly, all of you know it better than I do. And I think the last time I was an actual practitioner was probably back in Illinois at a plant research facility helping corn have sex with corn. And so I don't want to kind of go over those areas again. But just to state that as we say biology matter and as we say the administration is looking for your inputs, but across the entire swath of what we deem the bioeconomy and stuff, just know that it's critical to our entire government. And that's, I think, important that I was blessed to have been invited here, but I think also when we have Deputy Undersecretary Porter, who will speak later on today, and also Assistant Director Alexander Titus from DOD, and all the other interagency colleagues that are here participating throughout this incredible forum over the next 3 days and stuff. There's a reason why the government, this is critical. The applications to everything we do and the transformative nature that's going to have an impact on how we, and also for the overall public good, is is something that we work through on a daily basis, and we need to be able to understand, particularly as we line those up against other technical priorities in combination with AI, manufacturing, and other capabilities that we invest in and whatnot. To say that an industry of the future hasn't been created for biology or specifically synthetic biology doesn't mean that the administration has particularly an eye towards this, but it's been very specific, right? So in June, most of you guys are aware that there was an executive order signed on the modernizing the regulatory framework for agricultural biotech products and stuff. An evidence-based approach towards plant and animal products that is kind of really critical. Likewise, I think recently you saw there was the EO sign for advanced manufacturing and influence of manufacturing. I think along with that, I think if folks know that as of just, I think, September 11th and stuff, OMB and the Office of Management and Budget, and also OSTP, my office, every year we publish the R&D priorities for the new fiscal year that all departments and agencies plan against. And in the FY21, the fiscal year 21, the priorities for the year, it was telling that an entire bioeconomy section and the specifics incorporated as part of that, the capabilities that we're looking for were included in, which allows places like DARPA, which allows places like NSF, and allows multiple departments and agencies to be able to start reprogramming dollars towards the importance and prioritization laid out in memos like this. So we have with the influenza EO, things like, and the National Biodefense Strategy, which also play in this field from last October and stuff. I think what's important about the bioeconomy piece and stuff is that it's looking across everything. We're not looking specifically at one sector, meaning the agricultural sector, biomedical, or otherwise. We're not looking at a specific discipline or even a process. So all too often you'll hear policy officials talk very much about, well, we should have a CRISPR strategy, or we should have something directly for just synthetic biology, or just something for the agricultural sector. I think that misses the approach and the capabilities writ large we're looking back. So I want to characterize the bioeconomy as first an economic approach, not weapons of mass destruction, not looking at specific fields or things, but also acknowledging across the 9 different departments and agencies that fund heavily or to different extents across synthetic biology, across the life sciences, and across the elements and the data that make this important. So with that, I think the other characterization I would say as far as our approach on the bioeconomy at large is that it has to be contextualized within both what we call promote and safeguarding, or protect, somebody says. I mean, as we do this and as we start looking into the bioeconomy and what policies may or may not look right, as we look at strategic frameworks and how we characterize this, I think an important piece is to always, and as we receive input from our stakeholders and from the public, we're trying to do this in a way that recognizes that this is important. It has dual use potential, and there's economic stakes at hand, and we owe it to our public when it comes to information that's disparate from your typical financial records or PII, and that their genomic and public health information, one and the same, and stuff, are critical and warrant us, as we develop policies, paying true attention to that. So regardless of what the inputs we get as policymakers, and we look at what are initially really critical issues, if we get good direction on going towards federated data systems versus coalescing large genomic databases, whether we try to look at things like trusted ledgers and giving ownership back to patients and stuff over their own public health information, regardless of any approach, those all have protection qualities and stuff that we have to take into consideration. So particularly as we invite stakeholders to engage with us, we're trying to keep those two sides inextricably linked, which I think they apply across the entire suite of things. I think as we head in here, I think admittedly we may be at risk of grossly underestimating the magnitude of the opportunity before us, and consequently failing to motivate and organize at the scale it's warranted. And I mean scale and also scope, is that this is incredibly huge. The potential for our bioeconomy is not lost on us. What is lost on particularly policymakers like ourselves, and that's why I say we grossly underestimate, is really truly understanding how consequential what the work you do, what the work that's going on, and particularly in the convergence of other technical areas with the life sciences and biology writ large, and be able to characterize that and actually measure it and actually put in policies that are not going to cause secondary or tertiary or unintended consequences, but also in great part not just as I'm an old Russian, as a Potemkin village, meaning what we put forth has to be meaningful. It has to be able to spur economic development, tear down barriers for industry and academia, talk about transition difficulties we have in the pre-commercialization. We need ideas as part of this, and so meeting that part of this is us launching at the onset, not after we've already done policy development, our engagement with the community and, to really important, the public writ large. And so that started with an RFI that we put out on the street for bioeconomy on September 10th, 2009, so just a month ago. That will stay open all the way through October 22nd, and I certainly would like, if I had this clicker, I'd give you the website, which there were the link to but most of you know where the Federal Register is anyway. But so first and foremost, we wanted it to be open for a long duration because, as I'll talk about in a moment, we'll be launching off our White House Summit on the American Bioeconomy next week. We wanted to capture inputs from stakeholders beforehand and also afterwards and stuff. Likewise, like I said, on October 7th, so next Monday, we will launch a White House Summit. These summits, particularly in the technology areas, have been conducted, and you often see them in reference to quantum and AI most frequently, and also really successful ones on our STEM education strategy that have been rolled out. These are a way for us, and I'm going to just read particularly because it's easier for me and to make sure I get our objective, but the White House Summit on American Bioeconomy is being convened to shape the conversation and inform the policy framework necessary to maintain and manifest American leadership in biology as a scientific, technological, and economic force. We're hoping to realize a shared vision of a flourishing American bioeconomy and aspire strategy that will get the job done and advance the urgency of an all-hands-on-deck approach to guarantee success. And I use the all hands on deck approach is because I can't overemphasize the criticality of us engaging with as many consortia, with as many voices as possible, which is one of the reasons here. And I say that because the summit, there are many of you in the room that are invited to the summit. There are many of you that are not able to be invited to the summit. We have limited ability and to invite everyone, and we have a very large constituency to make sure, whether that's the venture capitalist voice, whether that's hearing from data and informatics related individuals, the agricultural sector, the biomedical sector, trying to get all that, particularly with our industries, our academic institute partners, our congressional partners, and the departments and agencies is always the thing, but that should not be the end state. And it shouldn't be. It's just the kicking off of our overall association and partnership with you and everyone else. So we've been going out, and myself personally too, meeting with industry and academia over the course of the month, and we welcome more of that to either host you at the White House or particularly one-on-one, or catch me after this as well, or as we look to assemble further ways in which we can garner the information necessary for the president. I guess at the summit, particularly what we'll be trying to run through is some understanding of trying to characterize the overall bioeconomy from the participants' perspectives, framing that and some of the critical issues we need to prioritize as we go into that, or whether we determine whether it requires federal government to have a leadership role, which I think we clearly do, because that's how we're announcing on the summit. But I think as we look for a call for partnerships and solutions to progress this policy consideration and strategic areas, I think we can look at places like ensuring foundational science sufficient to secure operational mastery of living organisms, assuring U.S. science and technology leadership persists. Increase in supply chain resilience is something that we're highly interested in, and invest in tools and people necessary to dominate global competitiveness, and bolster strategic understanding and prominence of biological engineering and manufacturing particularly. in the economy. I think other voices that we really like to hear outside of just safeguarding against economic aggression and vulnerabilities that we've seen within particularly some of our data areas and health, the population data is having a better understanding of and taking into account how we increase access to the population, not just customers, not just one molecule equals one profit, but how we actually expand the bioeconomy to increase communications with not only our customers, but our citizens and stuff as this becomes so critical to overall lives, how we improve uptake within the population and how we continue to communicate those, and how we have equitability across doing that, right? And so that all benefit as a result of that, which has been said here, but should be a permanent point. So with that, I know I might have even gone over a little bit. Sorry for that, John. But I look very forward to meeting with as many of you I can over today. And if you have any questions, please let me know, and I appreciate it.